Well, good afternoon. It's the start of another cycle tour. This will be how many for you now, Ewan? Is this your fourth cycle tour? And we are doing this. Last year we did the cycling route down in Kent, the Cantii Way. This year we're doing the new cycling route, the Rebellion Way, which is in Norfolk. We've just arrived down on the train to Norwich. We went down to London and then back up from London to Norwich. And the sun is shining. Couldn't have more different weather from the cycle tour I did with Iona last week. It's a beautiful day, quite warm, isn't it? Are you ready for this? Today we've just got an easy 18-miler to do to get to our first night's campsite and hopefully find an Aldi on the way out to get some pasta as well, Ewan. I have plotted that onto the route, all being well. So, time to get on the bikes and get cycling. A slight detour off the real route and we found an Aldi and one of our favourite camping meals, the tortellino that they do at Aldi dried, and it just does really easy on a campsite. So that'll be our tea for tonight. We've just stopped off to visit a Roman town. I'm climbing up what would have been the embankments around it. This here is the Roman town. You will have to use your imagination, I'm afraid. It's, unsurprisingly, not a lot left of it. More usefully is the information board which we've parked our bikes by, which reveals that it was the home of the Iceni. The place name actually means the market of the Iceni, and it remains of a Roman town. So, yeah, fascinating to discover some of the history of this area. Ewan and I are considering taking Norfolk to court under the Trade Descriptions Act. We were told it's flat. We've definitely found quite a few undulations in the first few miles of riding. So far, it is not living up to expectation. We've made it to our campsite. How's your first day of riding gone, Ewan? How are those legs doing?
Okay.
They've got a big day of riding ahead of them tomorrow, but now time to pitch the tent and get some tea brewed. Well, the stove's on, cooking up our pasta. My G&T is cooling in a bowl of water. All getting ourselves set up for a relaxed evening after our first day cycle touring. Good morning, it's the start of our next day's cycle touring. Today we are cycling over to Kings Lynn. But first, time for a bit of coffee and some breakfast, get the energy levels up, strike tent, and then off we go. We are 14 miles into our second day of riding. Up until now we've been riding along some lovely quiet country lanes, through some lovely little villages and so on, but we've now turned off onto our first non-tarmac trail of the day, through some fields out to our left and a slightly more uneven, shall we say, under our wheels. Hopefully it won't turn out to be quite as muddy as part of yesterday's non-road riding. We have been slightly defeated by one of the trails we've been brought along. Maybe when this trail was planned there weren't quite as many stingers. Now it is completely overgrown, not really navigable even for walking, to be honest, let alone cycling. Well, we've retraced our steps from that little bit of trail. That was a no-goer, and we're going to go back on the roads, ignoring my Garmin for a little bit, down to the next little village where we can sort of loop round and rejoin the roads where this trail would have come out. So actually quite glad we took that diversion, come through Shipton rather than the way along that gravel track, because it's brought us to this most unusual church. Inside, relatively normal church, though beautiful as so many of these buildings are, but the tower outside is really unusual. I don't think I've seen a church tower quite like it, so quite glad to have stopped by and been able to see this. We're facing one of those big dilemmas that you have as a cyclist when you see a road closed ahead sign. Is it actually closed to cyclists? Because to take the diversion would be almost going back on ourselves for a little bit and quite a bit of a loop. I think we're going to risk it and hope for the best. Well, the gamble paid off. We're past the power station that was supposedly the reason for the closure. No closure at all, straight on through. Didn't even have to get off our bikes and push round, so certainly made the right decision to carry straight on. We're almost into Swaffham now. We're over halfway through the day's riding and we're hoping to find somewhere for lunch here. Well, it's lunchtime, we've made it to Swaffham and we found Swaffham Cafe. And Ewan is very happy because they've got a bacon and brie and cranberry panini, which is your favourite lunch at the moment, isn't it, Ewan? We're over halfway, so our next stop, I believe, will be a castle. Looks interesting on the route, and then we'll be heading towards our campsite near Kings Lynn at the end of today. We've headed out to Swaffham to begin with on nicely tarmacked roads, but then the route has taken us for the third time onto some non-metalled road, gravelly, flinty type surface. Now, will it this time lead us to actually be able to get to where we want to, or will we find ourselves on a bit of narrow single track thoroughly overgrown with brambles and nettles, resulting in us having to retrace our steps, or will it be third time lucky? Let's hope it's third time lucky. Well, it was third time lucky. We made it. No having to get off. We managed to cycle all the way. It was slightly sandy, which did mean the back wheel was going all over the shop at times, but we got back to the other end and back onto tarmac. The lane we've come down has a choice of ways we could get across the river. Do we go across the bridge or do we go through the water?
We've got a towel.
Got a towel?
I'm going to take my shoes off and I'm going through it.
You're going to walk through it, are you?
Yeah.
While having wheeled the bikes over the bridge, the water looked too refreshing and cool not to enjoy a little paddle. So, paddle time it is. Having headed through the ford, we made it to Castle Acre and discovered the Priory. An impressive castle that gives Castle Acre its name, with a deep moat round it and some impressive looking ruins. We're coming towards the end of our second day of riding and we're on a lane that is actually a tarmac lane, but I don't think it gets used very much. It's another one of those with the grass growing up the middle of the lane, potholes to dodge on either side. Well, the tarmac road went from being a tarmac road, a rather rough tarmac road with grass growing at the middle of it, to now what is a proper gravel lane. Bit of tractor racing. Haven't done that in ages. Right, largely because tractors these days are too quick. When I was a kid, they were slow enough that you could race them and overtake them. Doesn't happen very often these days. We've made it to our campsite. It's a bit different campsite from the campsite we were at the other night. A few more people here than about 4 or 5 of us at the other one. But a little shop, somewhere to charge all our devices, which is a top plus. And some nice showers, so we're just freshening up before we have some tea. It's been a good day cycling. Ewan did fabulous with 45 miles today, and just kept going, rolling along, no problems at all. So it'd be great to see some of the sights along the way. Today has been the end of the shortcut across from Norwich towards Kings Lynn. Tomorrow we join the remainder of the Rebellion Way proper, heading from Kings Lynn out towards the coast. And it's our biggest day of riding, 55 miles tomorrow, so it's going to be a full-on day. Tent is struck, bags loaded, refueled, ready to go. It's day 3 of the Rebellion Way. Today we're on the Rebellion Way proper, heading up through Kings Lynn and out towards the coast. We've decided to take a slight shortcut though going into Kings Lynn rather than doing a bit of a loop round and into the top and back out. We're just going to go straight to Kings Lynn. So that's just 3 miles up the road. With cycling to begin with the people we were camping with last night who were also here doing the Rebellion Way. Well, Ewan may not have allowed me to actually do the parkrun this morning. He decided we needed a break from parkrun this week with all the miles cycling we've got to do. But I've still got to see Kings Lynn parkrun. They're out on the course at the moment, just as we were actually cycling through on our route. So we actually went through on the parkrun route. So lovely to see parkrun, get a little taste of parkrun on a Saturday morning, even if I wasn't running it. Well, a bit of a pause on our ride as we wait for a train to cross. Heading out to Kings Lynn on a disused railway. Lovely cycle path, so perfect way to get out of here. We're out of Kings Lynn and following National Cycle Route number 1 out towards Sandringham. So plenty of traffic free but tarmac cycling, so makes us some really easy going to start our day's riding today. Currently riding through the Castle Rising estate on a beautiful private road. This is fabulous cycling. Empty road because it's not available for anything other than estate vehicles. Beautiful scenes on the sides of us, the fields stretching out, and just a nice steady ride. Getting to cycle through some lovely forestry as we head towards Sandringham. Just nice and shaded, so we're not too hot in the summer sun. We're just cycling through the Sandringham estate now. This is a working royal estate, organic farm and forestry, all managed. So looking forward to see whether we spot any royals on our way through. Made it to the seaside and just now cycling out towards Hunstanton along by the side of the sea. We have just been up onto the cliff wall, had a beautiful view over the sea, but it is a little windy up there, so we're quite glad we're sheltering just in the lee of that in a road just below it. We've come through Hunstanton. That we decided was the best thing to do. It wasn't really our sort of place. Lots of amusement arcades, lots of static caravans and things to do like that. Wasn't really our sort of thing. Came carried on down to Old Hunstanton, where we found the Old Hunstanton Beach Cafe, where it's time for a spot of lunch to refuel our batteries. We can definitely recommend the Beach Cafe in Old town here. Absolutely delicious lunch and great prices too. Now we're heading slightly back inland towards Burnham Market. That's our next major place. We've got quite a bit of rural cycling, I think, to do between here and there. But we've had a chance to explore the lifeboat while we're here as well. They operate a hovercraft lifeboat as well as a dinghy from here. And one of the few around this area because they need very fast response times across sort of mixed type surfaces here. So that's quite exciting to have a little explore of that. Back on the bikes now and on with the ride. So we're cycling inland now, away from the coast, up one of Norfolk's flat hills and up to a massive solar farm with the sheep happily grazing between the solar panels, proving that solar and farming mix quite nicely. Great source of energy and food for our plates. Bit of nature's pantry to give me some extra sustenance after yet another of Norfolk's flat hills. Just been having a gentle ride around Burnham Market. It is a beautiful little village with loads of really interesting shops, cafes, lots of deli and eaty type places as well. Apparently it's rated one of the 20 most beautiful villages in England back in 2022, and I can certainly see why. Definitely worth a visit. Take a detour off the main Rebellion Way route and have a little browse around. We're just passing through Burnham Thorpe, which is perhaps most well known for its most famous person born here, which is Nelson. The pub just behind me, renamed in his honour, and a little museum just by the side of the road to tell you a bit about his story and of course his most famous battle. So this little sleepy village, home to one of England's most famous heroes. We're making our first playground stop of the ride after almost 100 miles, but what would you expect to see in Burnham Thorpe's playground? But of course, a ship. Nelson's ship obviously landed here in Burnham Thorpe. We're just about to enter the estate drive, and absolutely typical, we struggle through a narrow little gate just there. Just afterwards, guy comes through, gates open, and we could have come down through the big wide gates and made it a whole lot easier. But hey ho, were we to know? Not really. We've got a beautiful long drive ahead of us now, out towards the monolith at the other end of it. So, be interested to see what this is like. Looks slightly undulating as well, as we've come to expect a bit of Norfolk now. We've definitely been got rid of the concept of a flat Norfolk. Cycling through the over 100 kilometres square of grounds that belong to the Holkham house, which is what you can see there in front of me. Built in the Palladian style in the late 1700s, it is still the home of the Earl of Leicester of Holkham, but also can be visited by the public. And right now there's a festival of sport on. I think we should get free entry after cycling this many miles. But absolutely beautiful landscape round here, amazing grounds, beautiful house which is barely touched since it was first constructed, so you still see it in its original style, unlike so many stately homes which have had bits added on and changed as different people have lived there. Absolutely beautiful, and the grounds and the lake and everything around here just look fabulous. Beautiful to be able to cycle through here. No great amount of traffic. It's just a fabulous place to come and explore. Thank you Cycling UK for taking us through here. We have just discovered, having spotted the parkrun sign, that there's a parkrun here at the Holkham estate. This has got to be one of the most beautiful locations, or certainly impressive locations for a parkrun. I think at some point we're going to have to come back here and do this, just to run a parkrun in the grounds here. It would be amazing. We came out of the main Holkham estate and headed across the road into Holkham Nature Reserve. And just as we were heading in, it started to spit with rain, and then it really started to rain. And as if by magic, a cafe appeared just in front of us, a viewpoint cafe. So we're enjoying a view in this quite unusual building. slatted wood to look out through, and getting a coffee and a nice piece of carrot cake to fuel us on our way. Just over 5 miles or so I think to go before we get to our campsite for tonight, so not far to travel now, so plenty of time for a little stop. If you want evidence of just what benefit there is in developing these long distance routes around various parts of the country, this route, as we've been cycling around today, we've seen various people out doing either all or part of the Rebellion Way, and of course they're stopping off at the cafes and things like that as well. So spending money in the local economy, you have to when you're a cyclist. You're not going to carry everything with you. You need coffee and cake and things like that. And also you get to explore bits of the country that perhaps you wouldn't have done otherwise. We have some lovely landscapes across the UK, so much variety to enjoy. We're really enjoying exploring part of the country that we've never really explored before. Certainly Ewan has never been here at all, and I've only made short visits to little bits of it before. We're now, having left the cafe, heading off on a trail through the nature reserve, heading out towards the sea again for the last bit of our ride before we get to our campsite for the night. The rain fortunately stopped. Our cafe stop couldn't be better timed if we'd have tried. It rained just as we arrived at the cafe, and the cafe just appeared there before us. As we were coming back out of the cafe, they were actually shutting up shop. So if we'd have been there a few minutes later, we wouldn't have been able to enjoy that coffee and cake, which was very much worthwhile. So definitely heaven sent timing that was. We've arrived at Wells Next the Sea, and this is very much the landscape I was expecting when I think of Norfolk. I grew up reading the Swallows and Amazons books, Coot Club, Big Six, and this is very much the landscape of the places that they played in, sailed their yachts, the Teasel, the Titmouse, and enjoyed the stories that were set around this area. Maybe we'll see a wherry coming past, little wooden dinghy sailing up there, maybe that's the Titmouse. The ketch behind me is just being restored at the moment, but will be reopening as a B&B, and we'll have a cafe wine bar on it as well. So if you fancy a somewhat unusual place to stay when you're in Wells Next to Sea and fancy a B&B, this might be the place to stay. I will pop the link and some information about it into the comments, so do check that out if you fancy an unusual place for a B&B one night. Well, day 3 of the Rebellion Way is completed. We've made it to Blue Sky's campsite. Best welcome ever I think I've had at the campsite. As we got here, checked in, he said, "Do you want a drink?" And he gave you an orange juice and brought a mug of tea to me as I was pitching my tent. Can't beat that after a day's cycling. So tent's pitched, Ewan's on the playground, which is directly opposite our tent, so he's enjoying a bit of playtime. Amazing that you can find that energy after feeling a bit tired earlier on in the ride. And then it'll be time to cook up some tea. The sun is setting. Lovely day of cycling and just chilling on the campsite, having got here this evening. You was just checking into a rather late tea at 25 to 9, but we did have rather a big lunch, so fair enough. Then settle into beds for tonight, ready for another day's riding tomorrow. A shorter day's riding tomorrow, so it should be a bit easier on the legs. And means we'll get plenty of time to chill. An easier start to today's ride, so a more relaxed start in the morning. We're just doing 30 miles today, heading inland through some of the inland villages nearby, before tomorrow we head back out to the coast. So 30 miles riding, but I believe it's a little hillier and more gravelly than previous sections have been, so it could be a little more challenging in terms of the riding. So definitely need a bowl of porridge to give me some energy for the day. Got to treat myself. We're starting today's ride by watching the train pull out the station. Not our train, it's a little steam train, apparently the longest narrow gauge steam train in the UK. And now we're about to start our day's riding. This station is right next door to the campsite we're staying at last night. The weather today, not looking quite so promising and sunny so far, is it, Ewan? But hopefully we won't get too damp, and we're heading inland, and apparently slightly more undulating course. Cycling UK did say that this section was going to be a bit more single tracky and, well, gravel riding. And certainly we've come straight off the road as soon as we started. We're still actually on the National Cycle Network, but perhaps not quite up to the normal NCN standard. It's a bit rough. For us, perfect. Summer, it's dry and nice to get off the roads. We've stopped off to have a quick look at Wareham Iron Age Hill Fort. Basically a grassy mound in a field, but obviously going back many hundreds of years, and would in the past, in the middle of the Iron Age Hill Fort, have had a dwelling protected by the mound and dike that you can see around this. It's a double dike and ditch fort. So you think, yay, gone up and down, and then you discover you've got to go down and up again. Two chances for the enemy to get stuff thrown at them and all the rest of it, I'm sure, in the good old days. Don't think there's anybody around today with vats of hot oil or arrows or stones to throw at us. And there you go, here's the area where the settlement would have been. No remains of that, though I do wonder whether some of the dark lines and so on you can see are related to what would have been there. We're just passing through Great Walsingham. As we got here, a stream of tractors. Quite a few of the Massey Ferguson tractors, so quite appropriate for me as a Massey Ferguson running club member, streamed through the village. That was quite fun to watch. And then we spotted the Orthodox church just here, which is a reminder of the fact that in this area, the Virgin Mary supposedly made an appearance to the Lady of the Manor and told her to build a replica of the House of Annunciation back over in Nazareth. And so this area is known as the Nazareth of Norfolk. We've stopped off in Little Walsingham, which is the home of the Lady of the Manor, who back in 1062 saw the vision of the Virgin Mary, who told her to build the chapel of the Annunciation. It's a beautiful spot to reflect. You can do the 12 stations of the cross, some lovely buildings around. Back obviously when King Henry VIII, he stopped all pilgrimages here, but they restarted in the early 1900s by the priest who was in the parish at the time, restarted the pilgrimages, and now over 250,000 people come to this spot each year to visit. It's certainly a place worth a visit. Beautiful architecture, some lovely scenes to reflect on, and the cafe that we've enjoyed our lunch at was excellent as well. So delicious range of cakes, beautiful lunch, and set us up ready for the afternoon's cycling. We've had a little explore of Walsingham, explore the little streets full of lovely little buildings, medieval buildings and so on. And now we're heading out towards the Slipper Chapel, which is what was built when the lady had her vision. People will do the mile pilgrimage barefoot, apparently, from the site that we're going to, the Slipper Chapel, into the village we've just come from. We've passed by another little ford. Fortunately, we haven't actually got to go through it. We're going to go and buy it on the road up above it. Well, I wasn't planning to go through it. I didn't need to go through it, but I decided to go in a little way to see what it was like, and then realised I couldn't turn round because there were grooves running across. My bike would have got stuck and I'd have just fallen over. So I then had to go all the way through and all the way back again. My feet are now soaked. I've certainly given my new panniers a good workout on the back, and the front panniers are dripping slowly. Right, on with the road we're supposed to be on. We've just passed by the Slipper Chapel, which is where people start the mile walk then into the village. Beautiful spot. Had a lovely chat with one of the people looking after it and telling us a bit about the story of the kings, including King Henry VIII, who apparently visited here 3 times. There were apparently Anne Boleyn nearby as well, so he may have had ulterior motives in paying a visit to this spot. just stopped in the village of Glanford. Unfortunately, the building behind me is shut. It is the oldest museum in Norfolk and is home to the UK's biggest collection of seashells. But we can't explore that. However, what we have got to explore next is another ford. This one we do have to get across. There is a bridge, so the question again, will I ride through the ford or will I go over the bridge? We've taken a look. It's one to go over the bridge. We are not cycling through this one. Well, we may not have been brave enough to ride our bikes through this one, but it didn't stop us going for a little paddle. We're at the campsite, Baconsthorpe campsite tonight. Lovely campsite, it's quite a large campsite, though not particularly full, so plenty of green space around us, peace and quiet. I'm just brewing myself up some bachelor's cheese and broccoli pasta sauce for tea, of course, which I'm going to chop a bit of Savoy, well, whatever that is, dried sausage stuff, into as well to give myself a bit of protein, while just watching the clouds and enjoying the evening. It's been a great day's riding, nice and gentle. We haven't gone too far today, though it was quite undulating and quite a bit of gravelly stuff as well to contend with today, plus some really interesting places to visit along the way. Tomorrow is our last big day of riding. We have just over 40 miles to do. We're going into the coast and back out again and through the Broads a bit as well tomorrow, so I'm quite looking forward to that, revisiting my Swallows and Amazons country again. Meanwhile, chill out, enjoy the evening. I'm looking forward again, I'm in the middle of nowhere, so I'm looking forward to dark skies tonight and really being able to appreciate the stars before going to bed. Well, I'm up, I'm ready for our last big day cycling of our tour. It's a bit cooler, it was certainly a bit damper last night, but everything's packed. I've had some tasty breakfast, just enjoying my morning brew, packed up my stuff. Ewan's just having a bit more rest before we get going. We're in Sheringham at the moment, just taking a little ride down the high street, which is lovely little shops and some bunting up, obviously to welcome us in, and now enjoying the view of the sea again. Always good to enjoy that view and smell that smell. We're heading out of Sheringham now and up today's major climb up onto the heath, and she's also a bit of a trail ride, so we'll see if we can ride all the way up. It may be a bit of walking as well if the bikes are struggling for traction with the load they have on board. Hopefully a nice view from the top. The trail has defeated me. I can't do this last bit. My back wheel's spinning as I'm trying to climb up out the saddle. That's a no-go. So I think we'll walk the last bit up onto the heath. We've arrived at the top of the heath, and you are rewarded after a really tough climb, even pushing the bike because it was hard work, by a beautiful view back over Sheringham and out to sea. The sky is now blue and we can see the wind farm out on the horizon in the sea. Beautiful. We're cycling along the heath now up past Beacon Hill. I'm enjoying some lovely forest glade cycling out of the glare of the sun. Always enjoy this. Traily but rideable now. The previous bit, or shall we say, a little bit muddy and slippy in places. Could have done with slightly more mud plugging tyres to get through there. We are currently cycling through the Lion's Mouth. It's a National Trust area. Haven't seen anything too scary so far, other than a steep downhill, which we need to make sure we maintain good control of our brakes with all the weight we have on our bikes. Maybe that's what they're warning about. We're just passing by Falbrig Hall, which beautiful Tudor property, and home apparently to a wonderful selection of treasures, including some architectural drawings and things like that. Tea room here as well if you need the tea stop, and a beautiful parkland that it's set in as well. Definitely worth a visit. We've made it to the village of Aldborough, and we'd spotted a pub was there. Thought, great, perfect for lunch. Only it doesn't serve on Mondays and Tuesdays, so top tip there if you're cycling through. The local shop didn't have any sandwiches, so we are having a highly nutritious lunch of some Whisper bars and Texas barbecue Pringles. That will hopefully keep us going for another 10 miles, which is where the next major place is that will hopefully have somewhere where we can get something a little bit more substantial. Beautiful village, lovely village green in the middle, and the pub, if you were, there was a cricket playing, you could sit in the pub and watch the cricket play. Very idyllically English, but not for us today, was it? We spotted a sign for a mausoleum in the middle of the woods, in the middle of absolutely nowhere. Had to come and have a look at it. Basically a small pyramid in the middle of Norfolk. Just as we arrived in Aylsham, we were told about the church bells being delivered back. Got to see something you would never normally see. A row of 12 bells being delivered back to be ready to be hung up in the church. But it's going to take the next 9 days to get that all sorted and ready to use. So the first time that the rector who's there now will have ever heard the bells ring, apparently. We're just cycling out of Aylsham and come across this little railway. There's, I think it's finishing for the day, a little diesel shunter just over there, and a steam engine is backing into the sheds. Signal box just in front of me. Lovely to see this. Love the smell of steam and smoke and coal as well. We enjoyed a really nice stop off for a snack in Aylsham, croissant for Ewan and a hot chocolate. I had a lovely piece of apple cake and an Americano. Hopefully give us just enough fuel to get us over to where we're going to be camping tonight. Not too far to go now, about 12 miles in total. We're actually following the side of the narrow gauge railway. Apparently it's an 18-mile circuit that you can do on this steam railway, so it'll be quite fun, but we are cycling it, we're not on the steam train, so not quite as much fun possibly for us, but I'm enjoying it. We've just discovered we're cycling alongside the railway on this valley all the way to Wroxham, which is where almost by our campsite. Ewan suggested if we'd have known about this in advance, we could have just caught the train, and they do actually take bikes on this train. So if you want to break from cycling on part of your Rebellion Way route, just catch the train. For us, it's too late. They've stopped running for today. So we are having to cycle all the way. And that's the end of the Bure Valley Railway and the Bure Valley Path that we've been riding alongside. Absolutely excellent way to do a road-free route. Really gentle, so it's no hills, so perfect for children. One or two places it's a little narrow and bumpy where the tree roots come through, but overall, fabulous. Great way to finish the most of today's riding. We've just got a little bit to do now. We're hoping to find fish and chips in Wroxham, and then a little ride out to our campsite tonight. We've arrived into Wroxham, and here's all the cruisers lined up. Real Coot Club and Big Six country now. This could be one of the hullabaloos perhaps, and the little inlets and so on that we've seen as we've got here remind me of places perhaps that the Big Six had been hiding their boats and keeping out of the way of things going on and wanting to see if they could catch the people who had been stealing things off the boats and casting them adrift. All sorts of excitement that went on here in those books. For us, the excitement is trying to find something to eat. Let's see what luck we have. We found Ken's traditional fish and chips, and Ewan has had cod and chips with baked beans, and I've had haddock and chips. That should definitely fuel us up for the last 3 miles we've got to do to the campsite. How's it taste, Ewan? Enjoying that, are you? Did you need that? We've arrived at our campsite for the night. We're going to pitch just over here. So Ewan, can you go and pitch for me, please? And that's it. The tent is pitched. Just going to put our sleeping bags and so on in there, ready for a good night's sleep. Our last night of our cycle tour. You've done it, Ewan. Just 15 miles to get to the station tomorrow morning. But I think before we hit the sack, we're going to go and explore the area we're in, which has got a mere and a few other things around here. So let's find out where we're camped. That was bliss. Beautiful swim as the sun is setting. Perfect way to refresh after a cycle ride. Really enjoyed that. Bit more swimming, I think, before we stop for the night.
Over here!
Well, it's our last day in Norfolk. The sun is shining, the skies are blue. We've just got 15 miles to ride today over to Norwich. So it's time for a little exploring of where we are first. Ewan spotted a playground on the way in, so wants to go and find out what that's like, and might have another little walk down by the Broad as well before we go. And then a little roll through some Norfolk countryside. We'll see how undulating the last section is before we get to the station to make our way home. It has been a fabulous ride. Seen some beautiful parts of Norfolk, seen the lovely little villages full of really quaint little houses and big houses and manors and everything else and so on in between. And we've mostly enjoyed pretty good weather. Yesterday afternoon was really the only time we got seriously damp, and even then it wasn't in need of putting waterproofs on, so we've done pretty well. If you haven't done the Rebellion Way, then I would highly recommend it. Definitely worth checking out. But anyway, let's get on with today's packing and getting on the bikes, ready for another day of adventure. Right, time to clear sight. And that's it. We're all loaded up, we're ready to go. Last 15 miles to do. Is it playground time first though, Ewan? Let's go and find this playground. Think you know the way? That way. Out. Cool, let's get rolling. So we found just outside the campsite, the playground, initially that we thought was the playground, it's actually a stargazing net. You can lie back here and gaze at the stars or the clouds. At the moment, I'm just gazing at a clear blue sky. As we're cycling along today, I keep seeing places and names on signs of things from the Coot Club and Big Six, currently at Norfolk Broad, which I do remember from that as well. Lots of hullabaloos around, if you know the books. So enjoying seeing the sights for the books of my childhood. We've just seen a sign for the Rebellion Way itself. This won't be a Cycle UK sign because they don't put signage up for these routes. Just obviously somebody's taken it upon themselves. Quite nice to see. Returned to urban, coming into Norwich now, not far to the station. We're just on Rider Haggard Road, which I feel is rather apt at the end of a 200-mile long ride. But not far to the station now. Our ride and our adventure is almost over. However, what's nice is as we've entered through the housing estates, the last section of the ride is on a cycleway into the city centre. Lovely green off-road route into the city, and it even had some cycle crossing lights as well to make our lives easier crossing the busy road. Thank you very much. Well, as the train disappears off into the distance, it marks the end of our adventure completed. Bit of an adventure on the way home as well, with a tree falling on the line we were supposed to be using, so we had to go via Cambridge and then down to London and then back up to Coventry. But we've made it. Hope you've enjoyed our adventure in Norfolk, doing the Rebellion Way. Thank you Cycling UK for creating a great route that we thoroughly enjoyed. Do catch us on another little adventure soon. Do like and subscribe, and we will see you soon. Bye!